President, thanks so much for sitting down with me today.
Thank you.
Here we are in the week that the Dow Jones Industrial Average just hit $23,533 trillion of market value created since your election, and largely because of this anticipation and hope that your policies will get implemented. Tell us where we stand on the tax plan right now.
We're doing very well. We had a fantastic vote, as you know, and the budget is indirectly passed. Now it's going to go through a little bit of an iteration, but it's going to end up, I think, again, doing very well. And I think we're going to get our taxes. I think it's going to be, well, hopefully before the end of the year, but maybe much sooner than that. You know, there's a great spirit for it. People want to see it. And I call it tax cuts. It is tax reform also, but I call it tax cuts. It'll be the biggest cuts ever in the history of this country. And I think that there's tremendous appetite, there's tremendous spirit for it, not only by the people we're dealing with in Congress, but for the people out there that want to see something. $5,000, almost, it can be $5,000 average per individual, per group. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see what happens.
It could be quite historic. I know that this weekend is the 31st anniversure of when President Reagan last instituted tax reform.
On Sunday.
That's a big deal. On Sunday, exactly. Do you think you have the votes?
I think we have the votes. I think that Rand Paul actually is going to vote for the tax cuts. I think that other people, you know, we had tremendous enthusiasm this time. Healthcare, I was told, was tougher, but it was close. I mean, so far, I would say it's not even a contest. And I will tell you, speaking of healthcare, I believe we're going to get that also. It'll be in the form of block grants to the different states, and it'll be a wonderful healthcare. It'll be a tremendous healthcare managed properly in smaller doses where you can really do it much more individually. So I think we're going to get that also in a little bit later, probably in 3 or 4 months from now. But I do believe we'll have that long before the election in 2018. As far as taxes are concerned, you see what's happening. It's really doing well. Great enthusiasm.
Yeah, you soured on the health care bipartisan plan a bit, right, from Lamar Alexander and Patty Murray?
Well, I've looked at it very, very strongly, and pretty much we can do almost what they're getting. I think he is a tremendous person. I don't know Senator Murray. I hear very, very good things, but I know that Lamar Alexander is a fine man, and he is really in there to do good for the people. We can do pretty much what we have to do without. You know, the secretary has tremendous leeway under the Obama plans. One of the things that they did, because it was so messed up, they had no choice but to give the secretary leeway, because they knew he or she would have to be changing all the time. And we can pretty much do whatever we have to do just the way it is. So this was going to be temporary prior to repeal and replace. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. And I think we actually have the votes. People are criticizing me for saying that. I think we actually have the votes for that. You know, we were basically one short. And I think we're going to have the votes for that also, Maria.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, because even your supporters say, you know, he's got fantastic policies. We want to see this through, but the bickering and the feuding actually gets in the way. So obviously the feuding with Senator Corker, I think there's a personal thing going on between you and Senator McCain. Do you worry that this bickering and feuding gets in the way of your agenda?
No, and sometimes it helps, to be honest with you. So we'll see what happens in the end. But I think actually sometimes it helps. Sometimes it gets people to do what they're supposed to be doing. And, you know, that's the way it is. I just want what's right. And I think for the most part, they want what's right, too. So we'll see what happens. But I do believe we have the votes for health care at the appropriate time. And I think that we're going to have the votes for taxes. And I will say the fact that health care is so difficult, I think, makes the taxes easier. The Republicans want to get it done. And it's a tremendous tax cut. I mean, especially for the middle class and especially for business. We have, you know, we're losing our companies. We have companies leaving. And I have to say, since I've been elected, that's really stopped. It's really slowed down. There's a tremendous enthusiasm for business in this country. So a lot of things have changed.
And you see the job creation as well this year.
It's been so fantastic.
If they can't get this tax bill done this year, should they forego Thanksgiving and Christmas? Should they be here if they don't have a bill on your desk by Thanksgiving?
Well, I think they should, and I think they will. I think a lot of things are happening, unless you know it's going to be right after that. But I don't even like them leaving. But I will say this. I want to get it by the end of the year, but I'd be very disappointed if it took that long. It could be substantially less than that, depending on what happens when we send the bill back to the House. You know, they'll send it back, and people are going to go and, you know, make 200 suggestions as opposed to maybe no suggestions, because it's a great bill. It's going to be a great bill. And we're adjusting. We're adjusting so that there's no way that the middle class doesn't greatly benefit. Every once in a while, there's a method under which, you know, it could be that some people in the middle class won't benefit as much as we want them to benefit. And we're making certain adjustments. But I think we're going to have it sooner rather than later.
Paul Ryan did an interview this week and said you are insisting that they have a fourth bracket. It's on your insistence that they have a fourth bracket. I know that you're very focused on the middle class, but do you want to raise taxes on the rich with a fourth bracket?
Well, he really said that on the basis that I wanted it, or was thinking about it because I want to make sure the middle class gets taken care of. So in that way, yes. But actually, we do have four brackets because we have a zero bracket, and people aren't including that. So that would actually make it a fifth bracket as opposed to an eighth bracket on the other side, on the other way. I call it our competition, which is the competition of the past. No, I think that when Paul says that, and we may not have that, but I would rather do that than do anything to hurt the middle class.
But see, that's what I don't understand, and I followed your policies really closely. The state and local income tax deduction elimination, you take that away, and then you go to a fifth bracket or a fourth bracket, however you want to say it, and you get a higher rate for the top earners.
Right.
If the top earners pay 80% of the taxes, why are you so afraid to cut taxes on the top earners?
I think this. Look, you know, I am very happy with the way I've done prior to this in my civilian life, all right?
This is not about
other
you.
people. Well, it's about me representing rich people. Let's say representing, you know, being representative of rich people. It's very interesting to me. Bob Kraft was down. He was very nice. He owns the Patriots. He gave me a Super Bowl ring a month ago, and he left.
Putin took his,
and
right?
which was very nice. Yeah, that's right. But he left this beautiful ring, and I immediately give it to the White House, and they put it someplace, and that's the way it is. But he said to me, he's a good man. He said to me, "You have to do us all a favor. Give the tax decrease to the middle class. We don't need it. We don't need it. We don't want it. Give it to the middle class." And I've had many people, very wealthy people, tell me the same thing. I've had very few say, "I want more, I want more." They really want to see, you know, the middle class has really not done very well over the last long period of time. And so when Paul mentions maybe one more category, which I'd rather not have, it may not happen. But the only reason I would have, and he does say this, he's very plain in what he said, is if for any reason I feel the middle class is not being properly taken care of.
Much more of my exclusive interview with President Trump in just a moment. Welcome back. More of my exclusive interview right now with President Trump. Moments ago, we heard what the president had to say about individual tax rates, but the corporate rate will be critical, and that certainly will be critical for the economy. I asked him about that.
Bringing the corporate tax down, you know, maybe is the most important, and we have a lot of most importance, but bringing it down from 35 down to 20%, that's a massive, I mean, it's the biggest that we've ever done.
It's a big deal on the corporate rate, for sure.
It's a big deal for companies. It's a big deal for investment. I think one of the other ones is expensing. You know, when you write something off in 1 year, as opposed to, you know, over many years, I think that's going to be tremendous. We have so many things in this plan that are going to be for growth. And, you know, your next question is going to be deficits and all. And I fully understand that, and we all understand it. And growth, if we pick up 1 point on GDP, that's $2.5 trillion, if you think of it. 2.5, it more than pays for everything. And I think we pick up much more than 1 point. And I've been the one that's saying we're going to hit 3 sooner rather than later. Well, last quarter we hit 3.2.
Yeah.
We haven't been there, Maria, we haven't been there in a long time. It's been a long time. Yeah. As you know, the previous administration didn't hit it for the year for 8 years. In 8 years, it didn't hit it at all. Here we hit it in, you know, an early quarter for me. And actually, before that, it was down in the ones. It was down in the ones.
Yeah, people got used to like 1.5% growth for a long time.
Well, you know, I call up, I become friendly with leaders of other very, very, you know, large countries. And I'd say, "How are you doing?" And they would say, "We are not doing well. We are not doing well. GDP is at 7%. GDP is at 8%. We are not happy." And I'm saying, you know, we had it at 1%. So I really think we can do much more than a point. Let's see what happens. But 1 point is $2.5 trillion and millions of jobs.
Let me ask you about your courting of the Democrats recently. I mean, the reason that I brought up this other bracket is because I feel like the Republicans get bullied by the left, by this whole talking point of it's always tax cuts for the rich.
Yeah.
You've been traveling.
By the way, that's an automatic talking point.
Exactly.
I mean,
so did you get bullied again? Are you getting bullied again?
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't seem like it. We just got the budget passed.
If you get a fifth bracket,
but here's the thing, Schumer, I like Schumer, but before he even knows the plan, say, oh, this is for the rich. It's for, he doesn't even know what the plan is, and he's screaming it's for the rich. He did it with health care, too. He said, this is for the rich. This is for the rich. You're not going to get your coverage. Everybody is going to go into hospitals. It's going to be terrible. The world is coming to an end, okay? Didn't even know what the plan was. And that's okay. You know, we're all learning politics, right? And he said that. Well, he says the same thing, because I saw him 2 days ago, before he really knew what was happening. He said, oh, no, it's for the rich. It's an automatic statement. It's like in business. You ask for twice as much. I mean,
right. Well, you go back with Chuck Schumer. I mean, you're both from New York.
No, I've always gotten along with him.
Do you think this is helpful in terms of your negotiations?
I don't think it matters. I mean, I really don't. But I met with the Senate Finance Committee. I met with the Republicans, Democrats together, right across the hallway. 2 days ago, we had a great meeting. Ron Wyden is their chairman. We had a fantastic meeting. There's a lot of similarity. They want tax cuts also, Maria. They want tax cuts, and they want them as fast as possible. Now, they don't want to say it, and they're saying, oh, gee, you know, the middle class, I call them the working people, because they really are the working people, but the middle class doesn't benefit. That's their standard, but they know it. They do benefit. They're the big beneficiaries. The other thing, the other big beneficiary are jobs. Wages.
Right, and that's been your priority.
Well, it's been my priority. And if you look at what I've done between regulations, I've cut more regulations in 9 months than any president has cut during the entire term that they were in. Nobody's cut regulations.
You're better than President Bush. I mean, the federal pages are down 30% under your leadership.
Well, and by the way, I've just begun, because
so there's more regulation rolled back
there's a lot more. I mean, really a lot more. I mean, I think I can double it before it's over, but a lot of it's statutory, where you have to give a 90-day notice, and then you have to give 120-day. We've given those notices. I mean, we're going to be doing a lot more. But you look at, Keystone Pipeline, Dakota Access Pipeline. These were all dead projects. I approved them in my first few days. I mean, literally in my first few days.
See, I think that's why we had a 3.1% GDP, because of the regulation rollback that you did. There are some industries that are not that regulated. I'm wondering what you think about tech right now, because you have these companies that are more powerful than ever before. They've got everything, all this data on us. They're selling the data. Should the tech companies be more regulated?
Well, I guess some people talk about freedom, and other people talk about we want to know who's taking ads or doing whatever. And I would imagine something's going to come down along the line like we're doing right now for regular, whether it's a commercial or not, for a normal broadcast company. It'll be very interesting to see. That's an argument that's happening right now. Okay. It'll be very interesting to see there are two very distinct views on that. Honestly, I can go either way on it.
Mr. President, who do you want to see running the Fed?
Well, as you know, I've been seeing a number of people, and most people are saying it's down to two, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Powell. I also met with Janet Yellen, who I like a lot. I really like her a lot. So I have three people that I'm looking at, and there are a couple of others. I'd say I will make my decision very shortly, pretty shortly.
Isn't there a way that you can get Taylor and Powell in there, because you've got a vice chairman opening as well? You can actually put them both in there. Is that in your thinking?
It is in my thinking, and I have a couple of other things in my thinking, but I like talent, and they're both very talented people. And it's a hard decision. It's actually a very, very important decision. Most people have no idea how important that position is. That position is actually more. A lot of people say get rid of the Fed, take the Fed out. The Fed's a very important position. It's also important psychologically. If the right person is in there, a lot of good things can happen. I think I'm doing a good job for business in that way. People are coming into the country. You saw what happened with Foxconn going to Wisconsin. You see what's happening with Apple, where they're going to. I said to Tim Cook, Tim, I want some of those big, beautiful plants that I see in China. They have to open in this country. You got to give me some big, beautiful plants. It's happening. It's all happening. The auto companies are coming back into our country, coming up to Michigan again. They're going back. We're not going to be taken advantage of. We were taken advantage of by, I wouldn't say the companies so much, but by other countries. We were so badly taken advantage of. As you know, we're negotiating with NAFTA, and they have an election right now and lots of things, but at some point, either NAFTA will be renegotiated so that it's fair to the United States, or it will be terminated. It's very simple. People think that's a very tough statement, but it will probably be renegotiated. But if it's not successfully renegotiated, so it's fair for the United States, it will be terminated.
Coming up, more from my exclusive interview with President Trump as we look ahead this morning on Sunday Morning Futures. Back in a moment. The phone call that President Trump made, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, who says that she was listening to the call. She accused the president of not showing proper respect. But last week, the president's chief of staff, John Kelly, defended the president in an emotional statement. I asked Mr. Trump about that.
He is a very elegant man. He is a tough, strong, four-star Marine. You're a four-star Marine, you've got something special to start off with, okay? General Mattis, General Dunford also, but very few. He was so offended because he was in the room when I made the call, and so were other people. And the call was a very nice call. He was so offended that somebody would be listening to that call. He actually couldn't believe it. Actually, he said to me, "Sir, this is not acceptable. This is really not." And he knew I was so nice. Look, I've called many people, and I would think that every one of them appreciated it. I was very surprised to see this, to be honest with you.
Well, he spoke very well yesterday.
And by the way, I spoke of the name of the young man, and it was a really. It's a very tough call. Those are the toughest calls. These are tougher than dealing with the heads of countries, believe me. These are very, very hard calls. They're sad, and sometimes, the grieving is so incredible. But he's just an elegant man and a wonderful man, and he is doing a fantastic job as chief.
The Congresswoman, Frederica Wilson, she said, everything he said was because he's just trying to keep his job.
Yeah, he doesn't need this job. In fact, he didn't really want this job. He was so happy. He's a military guy. He was doing this incredible job on the border and elsewhere. He ran Homeland like nobody has ever run it. Down 78% at the border crossings.
It's incredible.
That's before the war. There's nobody close. You go to the original first day, there was nobody close to doing the job. And I said, "I'd like to take you. How would you like it?" And it's not that he wanted it. Actually, he would have preferred doing and staying where he was. He is a man that felt it would be important for the country. He does it for the country. He's not doing it for what he wants. He does it for the country. This is a very unusual man. So when she made that statement, I thought it was sickening, actually.
I just want to ask you before I lose you about the border, and you've said you want a legislative fix for DACA. What else do you need to see in terms of the border?
Well,
what do you want overall?
We are working on DACA. We'll see if we can get something with DACA. We have to build the wall. All you have to do is look at what's happening in Mexico. We have to build a wall. Going to stop drug trafficking to a large extent. I mean, what's happening with drugs, and I'll be making a big announcement on that next week, what's happening with drugs in our country, and by the way, in the world, it's not like we're singled out, but it's never been like this. And a lot of the drugs come through that southern border, and we need a wall. We're going to have a wall. I would like to do something with DACA, and we are negotiating right now with the Democrats. We'll see if we can come up with a solution. But I can tell you, I and the Republicans are very open to it. We have to get something in return. And
last week on this program, we had Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Right.
He commended you. He congratulated you for decertifying Iran in what you did last week. Do you think you're going to get the Europeans to support you in terms of sanctions, in terms of not selling technology to Iran?
Honestly, I told them. They're friends of mine. They really are. I get along with all of them. Whether it's Emmanuel or whether it's Angela, I get along. I really like those people. I told them, just keep making money. Don't worry about it. We don't need you on this. You just keep making money. When Iran buys things from Germany and from France and from the various, billions of dollars, even us, they were going to buy Boeings. I don't know what's going to happen with the deal. We'll see what happens with the deal. But when they buy those things, it's a little harder for those countries to do something. Would they do it if I really was insistent? I believe they would. I told them, just keep making money. Don't worry. We don't need you on this one.
And on North Korea, is our policy with China just about what it does with North Korea, or do we have a separate policy with China for something else?
China has been, I've developed a very good relationship with President Xi. President Xi is right now going through his Congress, and it's going to be something very soon is going to happen that gives him something that few leaders of China have ever had. And I'm really good with that. And to be honest, when I told him this, I want to keep things very, very low-key until such time as he gets that. I want him to get that. I think he deserves it. He's a good man. But they have been helping us. They're closing off their banking systems to North Korea. They have cut the oil way down. Now, the banking systems we can see because it all comes through here, as you know. The oil, you can never really see what's going on, but the oil is way down. The oil is, they're doing a lot of things.
For the first time ever.
For the first time ever. There was a recent article that said I have the greatest relationship of any president, the two of us, and I think we do. I really do. I don't want to be foolish. He's for China, and I'm for the U.S., okay? So we start off with that. But we do have a very good, I would say, an exceptional relationship. And China's really helping us. And we'll see with respect to North Korea. Look, 93% of the things going into North Korea come through China. China is big stuff. I believe he's got the power to do something very significant with respect to North Korea. We'll see what happens. Now, with that being said, we're prepared for anything. We are so prepared like you wouldn't believe. You would be shocked to see how totally prepared we are. Wow. If we need to be. Would it be nice not to do that? The answer is yes. Will that happen? Who knows?
President Trump has taken to social media unlike any of his predecessors. Coming up, what he has to say about that Twitter habit. Plus,
it's such an interesting question because I have friends that say, oh, don't use social media. See, I don't call it tweets. Tweeting is like a typewriter. When I put it out, you put it immediately on your show. I mean, the other day I put something out. 2 seconds later, I'm watching your show. It's up.
You're right.
Trump is,
we're watching your Twitter feed.
Okay, and you know, they're well crafted. I was always a good student. I'm like a person that does well with that kind of thing. And I doubt I'd be here if it weren't for social media, to be honest with you, because there is a fake media out there. I get treated very unfairly by the media, and I have a tremendous platform. I think I have 125 million people between Twitter and Instagram and all of them, and Facebook. I have a tremendous platform.
So
when somebody says something about me, I'm able to go bing, 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 and I take care of it. The other way, I'd never be able to get the word out.
yes, the president's tweets dominating much of the news cycle since he took office, of course, and he was answering a question of mine, basically saying, don't you think some of the unscripted tweets take away from your broader message? I'm joined right now by former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, a Fox News contributor, and it is always great to see you, Mr. Speaker.
It's great to see you, and I want to commend, this was a great